There's one thing everybody hates. It's a hypocrite. And on this International Women's Day 2019, I'd like to present to you the person I consider to be the biggest hypocrite when it comes to advancing women's equality. And that is Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Now, you might say, wait, Justin Trudeau? He had a gender cabinet. He was in Vogue magazine. He says he's a feminist. What? How are you saying he's not a feminist? Justin Trudeau is the worst on this issue, and I'll tell you why. It's because he uses the term feminist as a way to get votes and advance his own personal gain, while all of his actions have been consistently the opposite. And I'm going to walk you through several examples of why and why it's so important. Again, even if you vote Liberal and you like Justin Trudeau, if you support removing barriers of equality of opportunity for women, you can't support this guy and his actions. So we are now in year 4 of his term as Prime Minister, which is quickly coming to an end. And I want to walk you through some of the more egregious examples of Justin Trudeau's hypocrisy when it comes to supporting women. First of all, his gender cabinet. You know, I remember watching this. This was in 2015. It was right before he was sworn in as Prime Minister. And the day before his cabinet was sworn in, he came out and said, I'm going to have a gender equal cabinet. Okay. Why didn't he just have the cabinet announcement and have people notice that there was half women in there? Because I mean, think about this. So, I've worked really hard. I have a really strong resume. I've spent a lot of time building my career. I was in Stephen Harper's cabinet. I can tell you one thing. If Stephen Harper had intimated that I only got into cabinet because of my female anatomy, I wouldn't have been super happy about that. What Justin Trudeau did in announcing the gender cabinet before it was rolled out is he basically said that all of those women that were in there, and even though I might not agree with them on policy, some of them have really strong resumes, like Jody Wilson-Raybould, like Jane Philippott, that somehow their resumes couldn't stand on their own and that they were there because they were women. That's why, you know, we have to be really careful with tokenism. It sort of says that a man has to gift power and equality to a woman and that women somehow can't be there on their own merit. So I don't know, if Justin Trudeau had tried to gender cabinet me, I probably would have told him where to go, and it would have been to take a flying leap. But that seems pretty mild in comparison to some of the things that he's done since. And many of these examples, I could go through a lot of them, but let's go through some of the more recent ones. So first of all, his Foreign Affairs Minister, Chrystia Freeland, went to the airport a few months ago and gave a big hug to a woman who was fleeing. Essentially, she was claiming persecution from Saudi Arabia, that she had renounced her religion, and if she had to go back to her family, she would be tortured or killed or worse. So Chrystia Freeland went and gave this woman a big hug at the airport. Now, why is this hypocrisy on women? First of all, that aside, I don't believe that we should be taking photo ops with refugees that their safety might be at stake when they come to Canada, as it was the case in this woman. But where was Justin Trudeau on Saudi Arabia for all sorts of different women's issues? I mean, I remember standing in the House of Commons, Justin Trudeau, it took him several days, it might have even been weeks, to acknowledge that there was a problem with Saudi Arabia being on the Women's Rights Commission at the United Nations. And also, you know, this woman was fleeing essentially guardianship laws or these laws in Saudi Arabia in various theocracies that say that women can't travel or work or do certain things without the permission of a man. How come Justin Trudeau has never once mentioned guardianship laws or brought this up at the United Nations or talked about these things? Again, fake feminist. But let's go through the last couple of weeks. You remember, if we rewind several months ago, it was alleged, I think it was last summer actually, A 10-year-old allegation of the Prime Minister allegedly groping someone in Creston, BC came to light. And his response to this, after the Me Too movement, which was all about, we believe women, this sort of thing, which is an important conversation to have, his response was, well, something to the effect of, I think she probably experienced it differently than I did. Wait, what? I mean, what? Come on, that's like, you're trying to denigrate the character of a woman so that you seem more believable than she is? That's not feminist. That is like the worst possible thing to say. I mean, there's a million other things he could have said, but that was the wrong response. Now, fast forward, he is in the middle of this giant scandal with this company called SNC-Lavalin and allegations of him having a role in obstruction of justice. This is at the core of it. And his female attorney general, Jody Wilson-Raybould, to recap, if you can watch a video on my channel if you haven't seen or you don't know about the scandal, she basically stood up and said, nope, we're not doing this. We're not going to interfere in justice this way. I've made my mind up. And then subsequently he fired her. Now, once this sort of came to light, she resigned. She was very public about what happened. She testified in front of a parliamentary committee with evidence of her accounting of the event. Do you know what Justin Trudeau did? Instead of, presenting any counter evidence or, trying to apologize, this was essentially his line, and not just his line, his former principal secretary Gerald Butts's line. Well, she experienced things differently. Now, where did we hear that before? Kokanee alleged grope. That's not the words of a feminist. That's not the words of somebody who actually intends on treating women equitably. This is somebody who's a fake and a phony. And how he's treated Jody Wilson-Raybould and frankly even Jane Philippot, the former head of the Treasury Board, health minister, it's been kind of gross. I could go on and on. I could talk about the fact that, and if you haven't watched it, watch this video too. When we found out that there were reported allegations of this company, SNC-Lavalin, paying $30,000 for prostitutes for Muammar Gaddafi's son, his response to me in the House of Commons was, we're protecting jobs. Seriously, if you haven't said that, haven't watched this, go and watch that, because he actually said that. And I mean, doesn't seem like a super feminist thing to say. I mean, I could go through the fact it took, months and months and months of and kicking and screaming, and we're still in the middle of this, to declare the Yazidi genocide a genocide. These are, women of an ethnic minority in northern Iraq that were kidnapped at the hands of ISIS and sold into sexual slavery. I mean, where's the feminism on that? I just, this whole thing is, standing up for women's equality and calling yourself a feminist for votes is probably one of the most hypocritical, disgusting thing that he could do. Now, I want to close with this. I believe, oftentimes when we talk about women's issues, especially when Justin Trudeau talks about it, it's this sort of like pink sandbox, women are only concerned about certain things. Well, a lot of the women I talk to are concerned about jobs. And in Alberta, right now, in Calgary, I think it's the highest unemployment rate in the country. Think about that. That happened under his watch. And there are almost 79,000 women that are out of work in my province of Alberta. Now, for him to stand up and talk about jobs in response to a question about SNC-Lavalin allegedly bribing Muammar Gaddafi's son with prostitutes, and then Justin Trudeau, allegedly getting involved in obstruction of justice around that company's court case, where's the jobs argument for the 79,000 women in Alberta who, many of them are out of work because Justin Trudeau has introduced legislation like C-69, C-48, these bills that are essentially shutting down the energy sector, the No More Pipelines bill. I mean, why doesn't he care about those jobs? What about those women? There's been reports in Calgary media about the fact that women have been having to put themselves into prostitution because there's no work. I just, get your act together, Trudeau. And you know what, at the very least, At the very least, if you're going to be so concerned about yourself, leave women out of it. We're done with you. You know, you can't wrap yourself in the cloak of feminism and then be a complete hypocrite and get away with it. I'm not going to let you get away with it. That's for sure. And I'll tell you one thing, Trudeau, if you're watching, you know, you stand up and you say, oh, I'd like strong women. Well, this is what a strong woman looks like. And frankly, to all the women that you've put out of work, that you've denigrated, that you've set further behind because of your hypocrisy, we're not going to be silent. We're not going to remember things differently. We're going to remember exactly what you did. And we're going to make sure that you don't have the opportunity to have the platform of Prime Minister to promote your brand of fake feminism. Working hard for you on International Women's Day. Have a great day.